Welcome to Nerdist Podcast number 792. What do you got on the Nerdist community corkboard, Kyle?
I got really excited when these people emailed in because they're a product that I use. FrightRags.com, Fright-Rags. Are you familiar with them? Did we do them?
No, but what is that?
Fright Rags is a horror t-shirt company.
Oh, thank
God. And it's all... now, the other things it could have been...
You
I imagine that's a real... Like, if you
quietly masturbating into a horror sock.
It's just a sad-looking, stained pumpkin sock from several Halloweens ago.
It's a little goblin towel.
We're learning way too much about Kyle right now.
Look, man, you guys don't open the crate if you don't want to see what's inside. They are a company that does original art t-shirts from horror movies, and they're kind of my favorite thing in the world, so it was the happenstance that they sent it in. They do stuff for everything. Their artists are amazing. I have a shirt from them that's from Return of the Living Dead that is all the main zombies from Return of the Living Dead, and then in blood it says, "Do you want a party? It's party time."
Great.
It's my favorite t-shirt ever.
Great. So where can people find this?
Go to www.fright-rags.com, and hey guys, if you wanted to send at Kyle Clark is Rad a bunch of free shit, I would not fight you on it.
If anyone sent you something, would you fight them on it?
I mean, it depends. If they were trying to send me like a box of like rabid monster creatures, I'd be like, I don't want that. And they're like, take it. It's your destiny. And I'm like, I'm a reluctant hero.
You'd be like, I'm going to fight him.
Oh, I mean, yeah, he'd beat me to death just immediately.
He would, but that'd be
a cool way to go. Somebody delivered Manny Pacquiao in a large crate with holes in it, and then I opened it and he beat me to death.
Pacquiao-age for Kyle Clark.
God, I got to get a new mailman. This guy loves his puns.
He sure does. Katie.
Hannah Crichton, who used to run the Nerd Melt showroom, is making a documentary. Yeah.
Well, what's she making?
She and her friend Kyle are returning to Russia to find the orphans they worked with in 2007 at a summer camp and profile their lives as adults.
Oh, this could end up real sad.
Yeah, but apparently the orphanage system in Russia is completely messed up, and kids are thrown onto the street at age 17 with no money and no education. So their past campers that they worked with are now in their 20s, and they want to see what their lives are like. So if you want to find out more info on the film or donate to help them make it, you can go to tiny.cc/Russian summer.
I am so proud of you, Hannah Crichton. That's fantastic.
If there's one person who can get that insane thing made, like that is Hannah Crichton.
Yeah. Hannah Crichton's your lady. This episode is Iggy Pop and Josh Homme.
Woo!
You all right?
Yeah. Sorry, that's the noise I'm thinking about this episode. Woo!
Also the noise you make when Manny Pacquiao jumps out of a crate and punches you in the solar plexus.
Like, it's just because then he crushes my windpipe.
Yeah, Iggy Pop. Obviously you were here, and I invited April Richardson too. April didn't sit in on the podcast. She just sat in the room.
April and I kept looking at each other and then looking at Iggy Pop.
I was fun watching you guys mouth the words "holy fuck" because Iggy was. Josh is like.
He's a rock star among rock stars.
And he's also, like, comedian
hilarious.
Funny. He is so fucking quick, and I keep pushing him to come on at midnight. He'd be amazing.
So good.
And Iggy could not have been cooler and
everything
open,
I wanted
and he was everything that you would want an Iggy Pop to be. But just both great guys. They're promoting their album tour, both titled Post Pop Depression.
I've listened to it. It's real good.
Postpopdepression.com. I did too. It's real good. Not what I expected.
Not at all. No, that American Valhalla. Like once that started, I'm like, ooh, this is different than I thought it was going to be.
He addresses that, but really, 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 really fun episode, and one of those like how. What is my life? How is this my life?
The whole drive here, I was like, what is this?
What is happening? It's like it was funny watching you the first time you met Rollins on the podcast, and I think that was your first like, what is happening?
Well, that was like 3 gigs in. I was like, this job's already insane.
And then you just kept showing up.
Yeah.
Like a cat we left some milk out for.
Now I'm just the cat who lives with you guys until Alf eats me. Scout is Alf.
Oh, that's Alf over there, too.
I put the fake mustache on Alf, by the way. Did you notice that?
Oh, you did. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. He was disguised. I didn't recognize him for a second. Katie!
Now entering Nerdist.com.
That's my Chewbacca book.
That's cool.
You're going to sign that later.
Ooh, it's so cool.
Take a blood sample and just smear it.
It really needs to be combed. It must be combed.
I need a hair sample and a sperm sample.
Oh, it's just like jail
just
again.
Leave it on Matt.
Yeah, I've already done that.
Okay.
Hence the bleeding.
Yeah, we didn't.
Look at you. You've gotten so cash.
That's how I get in this podcast. I just let it happen.
Oh, that's
guys.
pretty cool.
All right?
It's totally.
That's very Freddie.
You're the Axl Rose of that.
This podcast
All
is
set
Matt's
up,
Chinese
Matt,
democracy.
And then it never comes out.
It never comes out. It'll never come out.
No one cares when it does.
I mean, that must be like, here I go. Oh.
It's like, wait, too late?
Oh, fuck.
Am I too late?
I know usually people say too soon. No, it's
Yeah.
too late.
Too late?
It's too late this time. What are you? Are you guys just in town promoting? You live here, don't you?
Yeah.
Where do you live in L.A.?
I live in Miami.
You live in Miami? Are you serious?
Yeah, man.
That's where my mom's from. I know Miami.
No kidding. What part?
She was born in. She lived in. My grandparents lived in Miami Lakes, but originally I think Hialeah and my
I know all those areas. Yeah. Miami Lakes is. They indicted the mayor for there was an FBI sting.
For what?
Recently, he was taking bribes, but then he got acquitted because it was like an aggressive sting.
What do you take a bribe for in Miami Lakes?
Construction project.
Yeah,
We
like.
need another lake.
Yeah, this lake isn't deep enough.
His name was like Pozzi, Mike Pozzi.
Yeah. Hey, Mike Pozzi, yeah?
How long have you lived there?
I don't live in Miami Lakes. I live in Pinecrest
But how long have you been in the Miami area?
since '98, so it's almost 20 years.
Holy shit.
Yeah, one day I just said, "Fuck you, New York."
And you wanted to go to the most opposite place you could think of.
Well, I wanted to go as far as I could get away with going. I mean, I couldn't go to Omaha and really sustain what I was doing, but I could
Right.
get away with it.
There's no beach in Omaha.
Well,
Omaha
Omaha
Beach.
Beach.
Yeah, but
Very famous.
not
beach.
the best. Not the best place.
Good backpedal, Josh. Well, yeah, but.
Yeah, that place is the bomb.
Oh, so.
Wait.
Boom.
Oh, beach. Okay,
Yeah,
beach.
yeah, beach.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. You meant a beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, Miami's all right. I haven't been there in years.
You're going to anger our World War
love
II
it.
veteran listeners.
Yeah, both of
There
them.
might be one.
Yeah, both of them. Your Civil War buffs, though, will be really excited.
So how are you doing? I haven't seen you in ages.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
I think
I'm just
that
yeah.
comedian that
comedian party.
that comedian party we went to.
I love that party. It's a rooftop party. We don't have to say the name, but it's a rooftop party.
What, Sarah Silverman's party?
Yeah. But I like it every year because it's in that good environment. There's free booze.
I don't drink.
Basically, that's it for me. Yeah, but I drink enough for you.
You do.
You're small. I could drink your weight, and
You're 2x me.
yeah.
I feel like sometimes I like to, if there were two of me in a Titan suit, I
Yeah.
could be Josh Homme.
Well, but I when I go to the big and tall store, I wear an extra medium.
There could be two of you with a trench coat with one of your head sticking out, and you can get into those movies.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Yeah, we can finally get into those R or X rated movies.
Yeah,
Those are right.
that we've always talked about. Yeah.
How's the press been going so far? How's it been?
Well, you mean like doing it or reading it?
Yeah. Well, you should never read it. Reading it's a terrible idea.
Well, I read some of it,
How do you pick and choose what to read?
Well, it's just sort of serendipity, whatever. If I have 20 minutes and I read some shit for 20 minutes.
Do you
then there's-
personalize it, or are you able to not care about it?
I personalize, dude. I totally personalize it, and I wish death. Yeah, and I'll say, say to my wife, I hope he dies. He dies tonight in a horrible way because he criticized me this much, right? Just this much. asshole.
Well, but
Yeah.
their relationship is so strong, she immediately hands him a voodoo doll, and he gets to
He
work.
starts poking.
Yeah, she's got his
And
back.
somewhere a blogger's like, my heart.
Yeah, she's like, this is him, and bang,
That's all they want.
crotch poke.
Yeah.
Just boing, boing.
No, then you'd be, but then you'd be giving them more. I mean, to be murdered through voodoo by Iggy Pop would be such an honor for anyone. Like, you're giving them way
I
more.
have voodoo dolls. No, they don't. They're just like for company, you know.
I know, but every once in a while when my shoulder hurts, I think, that motherfucker, he's somewhere stabbing me to death.
There's a little Josh Homme. There's a little 2X Josh Homme doll there somewhere with a couple of pins.
It's a big doll. It's a big, let's face it, it's a big doll.
It's a big doll.
It's a big doll.
He's not stabbing any vital organs. It's just like a shoulder or a back.
Yeah, wishing me roughness.
But I think I think in general when people see celebrities or anyone they look at, they go, well, they're not human. They're these two-dimensional things. But especially someone like you, I think people go, how could that bother him? He can't even be human anymore at this point. He's ethereal.
Well, it just depends. They need to come up with a new angle to bother me. Like if you just say, dude with a face like a catcher's mitt can't sing, that's not really going to bother me. I'm going to go.
Well, what if they said first baseman's mitt?
But if a guy if a guy puts me in an article about attention-seeking celebrities who pose nude, it bothers me.
Yeah.
So it just depends.
Yeah. What? Yeah. Oh, you're talking about the thing that you did for the art school.
Yeah, right. So,
but I think unless they would be willing to pose nude themselves, it's almost like you shouldn't be able to say anything.
The one that didn't bother me when the thing was first announced, one of the comments, everybody had comments of, all right, well, big deal. So Iggy Pop has a big winky, and he thinks his winky he can pose nude. Ooh.
I think hearing the words big winky together are really funny.
Big winky sounds like a bouncer over at, at Finkelstein's Deli
over
or something.
Over at Chinese Democracy Bar and Grill.
We're almost open.
No, what you need to do is you need to go to the door. You need to ask for Big Winky.
Yeah.
I went to college with Big Winky. He can get us in.
He can get us in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of it's interesting what types of things poke into your psyche when but you know better though. Like it doesn't.
Yeah,
mean
sure. And then you just have a drink and process it and go to the bathroom the next morning, and then everything's
fine.
Yeah. It's out. It's out. I'm good.
I just got to shit out the negativity.
Right.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw
perhaps
that.
that's what shit is, though. It's the negativity. I never thought of it biologically that way, but perhaps the negativity.
I do find when I'm pooping, sometimes just like get out of me, sadness. Like I try to exercise and then anyone.
But you can only judge it by do you feel better?
Yeah.
Well, that's working.
Sometimes you do, and sometimes you're like, I think there's still some negativity in there.
It's the tingling that makes you know it's working.
Negativity out. But I saw.
Why is there blood in my negativity?
That's the Big Winky talking.
It's a funny word, isn't it?
Yeah. What, Big Winky?
Negativity.
The negativity is a funny word.
The negativity scene every Christmas?
Right.
Jesus, that's negative.
I saw the pictures from the life drawing thing.
Yeah.
And people they had easels all the way around.
Yeah.
And it looked like there were two people. Like everyone else just kind of had a side view, but it looked like there were two people that had the view.
Actually, there were, and one of them was a really sweet she's basically your basic little old lady, and it's just sweet as pie. And the guy, Jeremy Deller, who had organized it, invited me. He said, if you want to have a look and things are in progress, go ahead. So I had a little peek over at hers, and she drew the flab of my butt meeting at the hard surface of the diatribe, with these little curlicue lines. It's like a curtain, you know what I mean? Like this curtain hanging down. So,
I like that.
And that didn't bother me at all. I thought it was really cool. That was like part of the whole thing. Was like I didn't do. There's been a decline. I'm 68, and that things have gone downhill from when I was 21.
Sure.
And I thought it was good to document it before I disappear into the, whatever, So, that was a good one, the little...
But you're still in good shape, though.
Yeah, not bad,
Yeah, take a look at everyone's drawings, but don't get excited when you go back over there. You'll change the art.
I can't imagine there are a lot of 68-year-old people where you're like, I want to see them take their clothes off. But, you're still in pretty fantastic shape.
It was a lot of fun in the room. You could have heard a pin drop.
Oh, yeah.
There were 21 of them and one of me and two supervisors.
Yeah.
And a photographer.
Would it feel weird or not weird at all if, like, I assume they were all fans of yours, right? Is that weird?
No, they were a cross section of life drawing students in the New York area. Some of them, in other words, were enrolled in that class, among others, as part of a curriculum at Pratt Institute, which is an art school. Some of them were attending this particular academy, which specializes in classical foundations of visual arts. And some of them were practicing artists, and some of them were little old ladies and men who were, well, I think I would try to
I'm gonna take a class.
Let's take a class. Yeah, Jeremy spent about a month in New York with different instructors looking for a cross-section of the American population.
Now that I'm older, I realize I haven't drawn enough balls in my life.
But there were people from all backgrounds and all ethnicities.
Sure.
And,
I think that lends an air of seriousness to it that doesn't require comments, the comments section.
Right.
It's like it's an art class, a nude art, drawing nudes.
Absolutely.
And so it's kind of like, that's pretty much it. To comment on it, it's like sort of,
yeah, you're basically
unnecessary?
Yeah, I was like, that's art. That's what's been happening for thousands of years.
oh yeah, you're posing for your art class. So
Yeah, like a lot of people have for thousands of years. The human form.
still going.
Always a winner.
Yeah, come on.
But I think, do you still feel like you have the same amount of stamina that you always had? Do you feel the same?
I got the inner stamina.
Yeah.
Is strong. Probably when I was very young, I had too much, and I was very nervous all the time when something would come up. I thought, oh my god, I'm going to do everything all at once. And now I'm a little more even. But it's like a used car. The different bits. There are all these different bits that require special. You know how your car will break. You're by the side of the road in a classic car, and the guy comes. Well, all that was your cotter pin in the Schmitzel.
Yeah.
Cotter pin in the Schmitzel. It's a $3 part, and so then you feel like, so my investment was perfectly sensible in this car that doesn't fucking run, because all that was wrong with it, it's just a $3.
Yeah,
but there's
a
a new $3 part, like every fucking 3
By the way, I
days.
saw Big Winky open for the Cotter Pins. They're fucking great.
Mr. Cotter
So
Pins.
good. Welcome back, Cotter Pins.
So kind of like that, you know what I mean? Like there are all these different bits. And,
Yeah. Well, I remember when Rollins was on a few years ago, and he said he thought he had a lot of energy on stage, and then he did some show, and then you went on, and he was like, God damn it, how the fuck does he do that?
I don't
Well,
know.
he's always in competition, right?
I mean, it's interesting to hear you say when you were young you were nervous.
Yeah, it made me just sort of nervous about everything, because you want, like, sort of puppy nervous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you want to do well, you want to succeed, you're a little odd, it's not, tie a yellow ribbon around the old oak tree was number one when Raw Power came. This is my luck. Right?
Yeah.
This is my life, And I meet these people. I'm interested in people. I remember I came that year to L.A. for the first time, and I met these really friendly people. They were friends of the Coquettes. They were a little bit swing this way, a little swing that way. They swing around, right? And there was going to be a record release party, and they said, if you give us, they were very colorful people. They said, if you give us $300, we'll decorate your party for you. So you'll have you need decorations, right? So I gave them $300, and it was on the roof of the Hyatt House. You had to walk upstairs. So I get there, and there were turds and vomit, plastic turds.
Yeah, you need to decorate everywhere.
On the stairs, and Goddard Lieberson came to that party. This is like a guy who looked like Leonard Bernstein, right? Head of Barbra Streisand albums, and Gershwin, So, I kind of get stuck in stuff sometimes, but now I'm a little more cautious, Like, I can qualify as an old fart.
And are you okay with that?
Well, not like if I'm at home, I fart very rarely. But if I'm out on the road, like I'm farting all the fucking time, and I'm saying, "Fuck, you're doing some fucking press. It's giving me the farts today," and then I have to mix the press with my rehearsal, and I'm farting all through rehearsal, and then toward the end of rehearsal, you push a lot of air as a singer, so I'm pushing and farting and pushing and farting.
Well, but as a counterpart to that, I would say, like when we played the Colbert Show.
Yeah.
We played the Colbert, right? And we're going to do 2 songs. And when we played the second song, the song Breaking Your Heart is Breaking Your Heart. As soon as we launch into it, the audience stands up, right? And it was an exciting moment. And I never know what the hell he's going to do. So as soon as it's over, he's like, "Can we do more? We're going to play more songs." And like, do we need? And I was like, "Holy shit. Like that energy coming out of you is unbridled. Like I was like, it's not our show. I don't know. I forgot.
Just keep playing, or that what are they going to do? Stop you?
He grabbed me and was like, "Can we play more?" I'm like, "Oh my god, what the fuck?" And so what I sense is that cool, unbridled energy leaping, because that's not really age quantified. You know, it's there's a certain wildness about you that's impossible to control, and more like you just go with it.
Yeah.
And that's what's cool, you know, is that sort of unpredictable.
I thought you were going to say that when I approached you that you farted.
Yeah.
I farted.
I didn't want to, I thought I just shared that with you, but that's fine.
Josh kind of shit his pants, just a little bit.
I kind of did, yeah. It's cool.
It's just some,
but it was a cool thing.
Yeah,
you know, it's like a cool guy
shit.
thing.
All the kids are doing it now.
Yeah, bloodless, very cool.
Turtling. Like all the kids are doing it.
Yeah.
What is it that you're running toward? Like when you first start out and you say you have this nervous energy. Because I was reading about you and you said your parents were incredibly supportive.
Yeah.
So what is it? What do you think? What is it necessarily that you were rebelling against, or what was driving you during that time when you started to figure out who you were?
I didn't want to lead the unenjoyable life, and I discovered early on that I liked playing music in bands. I really liked it. It was really fun. It was just fun, and it was an interesting puzzle too. How to get the music to sound better, how to get the music especially over to the people in the room, so that something started going on. And then the big part of the puzzle, how to get a job. Mm-hmm. You know, so there's all this going on, and I was learning this by being in a band in high school. I was the drummer in a cover band,
yep.
And then we got a full-time job playing in a teen club all summer, away from home, a couple 100 miles from where we lived. So we actually were living the group life, playing 5 sets a night, 6 nights a week, with 5-minute breaks, right? And that was where I started. You know, I got my first DUI, my first mug shot.
First DUI.
I fell asleep at the wheel when, things started happening, you know.
I mean, your high school picture is just this button-up looking kid with
just totally straight. And then I really enjoyed that, and I became obsessed. I was listening to some albums. There were 2 Bob Dylan albums and 2 Rolling Stone albums at those times. They were at the peak of their, I think, of their suavidad. Mm-hmm. And with him, it was Bringing It All Back Home on Highway 61 Revisited, and the Stones Head Out of Our Heads and Rolling Stones Now. And those 4 albums, just listened to them over and over and over, and then studying with the Stones, the writing credits. That's how I discovered Muddy Waters and a lot of great people. So I was not a complete hoo-yah, so I had pre-enrolled for college in the September, and I went back home and I went to college, and I was like, it was just oh God, I felt lost. And I looked just like I look now, and that was like 66,
yeah.
So
Was music a really viable option at that point for people?
No, it was not very viable at all. So I said, "Fuck it, I'm going to be a musician." And my father was. They had indulged me in this as a, my mom probably said it's good for him and it's his interest and it's a rounded cultural thing. And then I said I was going to do it. My father got very upset and he blocked the doorway. And he's a good man, a very good person. And he blocked the doorway. He said, "Okay, Jim, if you want to do it, you're going to have to get through me right now." My dad could kick my my dad was a bad motherfucker. So I was like, okay, here it comes. I'm going to get the meeting, because I really wanted to do it. I would have to take this meeting. And once he saw that, he just got out of the way, and that was that. But up until that time, I mean, we lived in a very small dwelling. Our biggest one finally, when I was in high school, was 500 square feet, 50 by 10. And they rented me a spinet piano, which occupied the living room. And before that, and during high school, my set of drums was set up in their master bedroom. They gave up their bedroom.
Oh my God.
They would drive
That's
me.
supportive, I would say.
Yeah, they
That's
would drive me to rehearsals. I lived in the boonies, They'd drive me to rehearsals, pick me up. Wonderful people. Really, really great people.
Did they understand? Like when you started to break out, did they understand it, or were they go, "Well, we don't get it, but we're supportive"?
They never said anything against it, and there was a lot of. I became sort of notorious in the area, and that caused some problems.
Yeah,
especially I broke some glass in the same town where my dad taught school.
Oh, okay.
And maybe somebody got cut a little bit with it, and that maybe caused some problems,
Early glass breaking experiments.
And he had to come and get me out of jail a couple times.
Boy, times have changed. You broke a little glass.
Like,
this is you can't. This shit doesn't stand in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Yeah, that's enough.
I go,
that is enough.
They were great people, and little by little. They realized I was getting somewhere with it, but also that I had serious. He makes quote signs problems. I had problems.
Were they like when you were going through that stuff, and when you were kind of at the height of addiction? Did you ever reach out to them, or did they reach out to you, or did you kind of leave them out?
They even helped me with that. I had when I finally really had to do my first big heroin kick. They had a friend who they were well liked in the area, so there was a local pharmacist who said, "Don't worry, he's not going to have to go to any clinic or anything." And he bought a bottle. I could still remember, a bottle about the size of this container, full of a variant of methadone. And he said, "You just had to tell your son, you come once a day. Just come to the pharmacy. I'll give him a dose." There was no prescription.
Oh wow!
Yeah, no clinic, no nothing, and that helped me a lot. Calmed me down, weaned me off. So they knew what was going on. My dad, funnily, my dad's biggest concern. Look, he was a guy. He fought in World War II, and he kept seeing how I performed and how I lived, and he was scratching his head and he was thinking, is he gay or what? and so finally one day he said, "Well, okay, at least you haven't lost your natural drives," because I was thinking I might have to disown you.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it was a different time.
It's a much different
He was
time.
a great man, great man. He really was, but and he wasn't too pushy about any of that. Nobody was wondering.
Well, I think too, especially as a father, it's like sometimes you just have to let your kids go, because maybe their own failure will be the biggest detour. If you fall and you might.
Well, you learn from your failures. You learn that's not that you should seek to fail, but you shouldn't be afraid to fail, and you shouldn't be too down on yourself when you do, because that's where you learn.
Yeah.
And certainly, if you do anything in the arts, failure is mandatory for getting good. I mean, it's for anything, of course, but your biggest failures are the biggest stepping stone to something wonderful. How
old is your kid now?
10, 4, and I have one that's like 3 weeks old.
Okay, well, you got to just let them move out of the house and now.
Yeah,
figure
just
it
and
out.
say, find your way, guys. It's like find your way downstairs. See if you can make it
see if you can do
downstairs.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't. All
Oh,
right.
you're 0, huh?
Do you make fun of your 3-year-old because he can't even hold his head up?
Yeah. My 0-year-old.
Those aren't even words.
Like, quit acting like a babe. Well, okay.
All right. You expect everyone to do everything for
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
But it's that. I mean, everyone knows because I've said it a million times on the podcast. But I'm a recovering alcoholic. I understand. I understand addiction to a degree.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I never got into drugs, and I never tried anything. At that time were heavy drugs, heroin was just so much a part of the culture that it.
They were. I'm convinced, looking back, that there must have been some door quietly opened at the highest level to allow organized crime to swamp the country with hard drugs. And it's about 1971 was when it really,
Especially musicians too, right? It's like
but it was everywhere. Oh,
John
everybody.
Lennon should not be in the country or busting people. It feels like there was perhaps that door of get the musicians high and get them out of here.
Before that, it was more like a forbidden, dangerous thing to even have a joint or something. But all of a sudden, man, that stuff was everywhere, and it was cheap, and every scumbag, every lowlife had it and was offering it to you, and I don't know, things changed.
I mean, I understand. I understand how that could proliferate, particularly in a community of people who, look, you jump around on stage for a bit, and then you go back, and you're just in a hotel room alone, and you still have this nervous energy, and that's really tough to deal with.
Yeah, right. And I was taking a lot of when I first started, I used to smoke a lot of dope before I went on just to calm me down. Mm-hmm. But as I had to keep doing it more and more and try to keep the group moving forward, which wasn't easy, I started dropping acid a lot before I'd perform, and that really takes you to a point where you'd like a nice security blanket later.
Right.
I want to have my heroin now and curl up in bed.
Yeah. My coffee and my heroin, please.
So I think that was something to do with it, too. That stuff's hard in your psyche, and it's usually cut with a hell of a lot of speed anyway. The street stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Do you ever think about those days and go, how did I make it through that?
Well, I don't sort of do the how. Maybe once in a while this little why comes up or something.
Yeah.
How does that work? Something like that. But I do have, very decent memories of some of the certain things that I managed to be a part of in my life in those times. It's not all bad, but the discomforts were tremendous, very tough, but only in an interior way, most of it from otherwise. I was free. I was doing what I wanted to do, and I was getting in touch with everybody.
And leaving a mark.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. I just didn't think about things like houses or cars or bank accounts or anything like that,
It's probably best.
Yeah, it was better. Yeah, that stuff's not much fun.
Well, those things are the boat anchor of making art. You know what I mean? If you're like, better get my house payment together. This next song is about my house payment.
Yeah. Well,
1, 2, 3, 4.
It's called compounded
This
interest.
is one of the big problems.
That's how the song Footloose was created. You know what I mean? It's like, that's no good.
Kenny Loggins had just
The
refinanced.
opposite. Yeah, just like, do refi. How do I sing about being free while not being free?
I mean, do you believe in the idea or not believe in the idea of commercial success? And it's like if you're coming out of a punk scene, but then you start to get commercial success, and then is that bad or is it good or is it natural or how does that fuck with your head?
For me, it's been good. The way I feel is it's clearly known that I was described for many, many years variously as pariah, homeless, crazy, rolls in glass, vomits, blah, 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 and all this stuff. And so it's great now if I can, like, have a whole lot of dough and a nice house and, like, do nice things and have little jammies and stuff. That's all right. That's, that's how I feel about it.
I mean, I think that's actually the most punk attitude, is like just not giving them, just making yourself happy and not giving a fuck.
Yeah, and I think most people who, are sort of human, then they're okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't care. They don't have to be impressed.
Yeah.
It's just that they're okay with that.
All the stories. Have you ever heard stories about you that aren't true, but you're like, how the fuck did that get around?
I suppose I have. I can't. There's nothing is popping into my mind at the moment. But yeah, there's a lot.
Because the legend, like the legend of it'll spread. Oh, one time I saw him fuck a snake on stage. No, you never saw that.
Well, actually, I never rolled. I never rolled in broken glass. And all that happened was I was playing a tight club. It was Max's Kansas City, and at that particular place in the 70s, they served the cocktails in these sort of goblet-shaped glasses that go down to a little stem, and then they have a very thick base, so they won't tip over. And it was someone's bright idea that the audience was all seated at little cocktail tables. And they were all fucking critics, too. And
everyone is.
I got out on stage, and I was blinded by the reflection from their spectacles, right? There's a room full of spectacles, right? And so I'm pounding away here, maybe a little stoned, all right? Okay. And I think I either went to do a stage dive, although the stage was only 8 inches tall, right? But that's what I do.
Yeah,
I do a stage dive, right? Or I tried to climb on the table. I can't remember, but at any rate, somehow there was a glass was broken and it was on the floor, and I landed on it by mistake. That was just a mistake. But the way I am, I got up and I continued the song, and then I noticed it was this pretty fucking serious gash, and it's like squirting it's like a Renaissance painting, like where the squirt Saint Sebastian and the blood is squirting. But it wasn't like I was going to stop. Right. It wasn't like I was going to say, oh, So I just did what I did, and then the night went on. That it went on and on the night, but I didn't roll in broken glass. Actually, what I did was I went to someone's apartment on the Upper East Side, who one of the roadies later described in an interview as, I couldn't believe it. He's bleeding all over, and she looked just like Lauren Bacall and whisked him away in her chauffeur-driven limo. And all I remember is that there was a big fishbowl full of Quaaludes on the coffee table, and I remember reaching out my hand out, and the next thing I remember, I was crawling on down 81st Street, trying to get to Lexington to hail
like a version of walking home.
And I couldn't, but and somehow after that, somewhere in between, I think I went to a hospital on Alice Cooper's dime or something, and somewhere to get.
But I love the idea of being on all fours trying to hail a cab.
Yeah. No one will pick me up. Right. Exactly. You raise your arm and the blood just starts squirting out.
Well, that's why he's trying to get to Lexington. It's easy.
I was up and down. You know what I mean? I was, oh shit! Well, I'll
the Quaalude way.
Yeah.
Sponsored by Quaaludes.
But I didn't roll in broken glass.
The story was much worse.
Yes, it was much worse.
That's funny. Some of the stories that he's shared with me, too, it's like, wow, that's actually way worse than what this...
They didn't really cover it fully at all.
But that's the first time that's ever happened, because I've had my own experiences of being called certain names and doing certain things. And and traditionally, the story
gets
that.
My attorney warned me.
Yeah, I've had
He's
troubles.
notorious.
Yeah, and not to the extent you have been, but that willingness to do whatever. it takes, whatever feels right. But what's interesting is hearing his stories. Every time I'm like, oh, that's way worse than what that's absolutely worse. Or the one time you're like, yeah, someone said you ruined my house in Monaco. I'm like, well, I'm sorry, but I don't remember that. Really, I apologize.
Ruined. I've got one of those.
No, that's your story. That's your story.
my one. Yeah.
But I was like, wait a minute, you ruined a house in Monaco? What the hell are you
Did
doing
you ruin
in
a house in Monaco?
No, it was in Haiti. So,
Oh, well, that's totally different.
yeah.
Haiti. That's
Totally different.
Yeah, that's way different actually than Monaco.
How did you ruin it?
What?
How did you ruin it?
I don't know. They say I ruined it. I think what I did was.
They all start with him reaching his hand
Have
out.
you ever known? I have a little of this in me. Have you ever known the kind of person? Sometimes they're a hoarder. Sometimes they're just arty. But they go to a place and they have to start rearranging all the things and tacking up little things about themselves everywhere until suddenly it just looks crazy. Maybe like
a
that.
string theory.
Maybe like that. Yeah, just rearrange things.
Yeah, that's all.
I'm going to set this across the room.
Yeah.
But that came
that goes
back
there.
at me like, it was like 18 years later. I was a completely respectable citizen. I was doing Rock the Vote adverts. And everything.
Yes,
And then
I remember that.
See two women just came up to me in a bar in Chelsea and just, you ruined our house. And it's just like, I'm sorry.
Don't forget to vote.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Write your congressman.
Oh, you live in Haiti. Forget it.
Lower Haiti.
Did you? Well done. When you hear about these stories, do you feel like, oh, I don't think I'm that rock and roll anymore?
Well, but I honestly I don't qualify it like that because I think of the willingness. I what I love is the willingness to pursue yourself. Without consequence.
Yeah.
And how this is, we don't work at a bank.
Right.
This is the job if you are willing to machete, jungle, go, and I love that. And it's inspiring to me because, and it's also, it also helps to make me feel better about what I've done. Because I've done some things,
It's all right, Josh. Let it out. Come on, you're among friends.
But it's like the truth is you get thrown out of a few places and you're like, well, I thought I was just I'm sorry,
Yeah.
And but also you do some things on stage and that's what that took that night. I'm sorry. Did that bother you?
Right.
I'm sorry.
Well, you still basically have to. I mean, in a lot of cases, you're playing the same songs that you've played for years and years and years, and
I need them to be real every night.
How do you keep that fresh, and how do you stay in the moment? How do you?
But also, if I may separate myself from, I want to be a good person. I want to do nice things and make someone happy, and But then also, when it's time to do that, it's you turn off all the lights in the house of your personality and leave the one light on that would walk up and do whatever that is.
Yeah.
And I hate to say I'm not responsible for whatever happens, but that's just that one room in your personality. That's the person that would walk out and do that.
Good.
And I'm not necessarily in control of the person in that room all the time. And I'm not sorry about that at all. But in the daytime when the light in that room is off and the other lights are on, I want to do nice things for someone and listen to them and be cordial and civil but I'm not always in control of that room upstairs.
The kill room.
Yeah, definitely. Drag the body all the way up. Yeah.
So how do you keep something fresh and in the moment?
Back to with the singing it over and over. He's singing over and over. How do you keep it's 1922 and he's a dog. He comes here and still a dog. He's got a dog shirt. He's singing about the dog.
He wants
still.
to be someone's
always
dog.
the dog.
Someone adopt this pet, would you?
Well, that's why I wanted to make a new record.
Yeah.
So I made a new record of different stuff with some fresh blood, and
not at all what I expected when I started
No,
listening to it. It's
no.
completely different than what I expected. It's great.
So that was one thing, and then we also we play some of my songs together, but we're playing many of them. They're songs that either have never been done on stage, some of them, or not very much.
Yeah.
You know.
A whole record of flamenco-style Carpenters covers. Right. Great idea. I never would have...
Speed mariachi. Finally, it's come to
Actually,
life.
we've got one that's kind of like flamenco Carpenters.
A bit. Yeah,
right?
totally.
Kind of, if you think about it. Right? Yeah.
Speed mariachi is fucking amazing. That has to be a thing.
Let's bring it to the forefront,
That
would
has
you?
to be a thing. Well, it kind of reminds me of something I read about you seeing the Doors for the seeing the Doors for the first time.
Yeah.
Were you a fan of the Doors?
Yes,
You were-
I was a qualified fan. I listened very, very closely to the first album. And there were a lot of good things in it, but because I'd already been in bands and made records myself, I could tell how many overdubs had been used and how much it had been worked over in the studio to make it gel. It didn't sound yet like it didn't sound quite actual, but there were things in it. Whoa, the vocal, the warmth of the vocals, and the way the guitarist left space, Robbie Krieger, the sense of spaciousness and romanticism in the guitar. It was unique at that
Very
time.
strange band makeup of a band,
And
flamenco and
I
jazz
was real
drums.
interested in the drummer. I'd been a drummer, and Densmore played like a jazz drummer, as did Charlie Watts, too.
Yeah.
In other words, when he hit the cymbal, you heard the ping, 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 ping. You hear the beauty of the cymbal, and when he hit the snare, he hit it properly. Whereas Ringo, who did this great, ruined things for all drummers, he invented something called the monkey grip. And that's where you grip both sticks like a monkey grips a banana, right? And you just start beating louder and louder and louder, right? But before that, proper drummers use the parade grip. You have monkey on one hand, and you do this.
Yeah.
He flicks his wrist.
Traditional grip,
like
yeah.
chopstick,
Yeah.
like you're using a chopstick. Densmore plays that way. So because of that, he sets up a beat. Your toe is tapping, your butt starts to wiggle a little bit, but he's not loud, so that other musicians can come in and create atmosphere. Mm-hmm. And so I was real interested. And
How were they live?
They didn't. Well, they were absolutely abjectly terrible the first time. It was so terrible, and I was fascinated with how terrible they were. But then by the time I saw them the second time, they came through Detroit after the second album. They were totally pro. They had it down. They had a big sound. It was great, but wasn't maybe quite as much fun.
Right.
It was still fun. It was still cool, but it wasn't like. So I was in a little field house, a basketball place where they play college basketball, and they just set up a little stage for them. It was a homecoming dance. It was all the big
incredible.
guys and their dates and everything, but the public could come in, and I went. I had a little date, and we got near the stage, and the band came out, and they were going to start playing the intro to. It was Soul Kitchen.
Yeah.
But you noticed that they had these. I think they'd gotten an endorsement from some amp company, and the amp sucked. They were either Jordan Boss, do you remember those?
No,
or
that's way
Custom. They might have been Custom.
Yeah, Custom.
Yeah, and the only good thing about a Custom amp was it had this Naugahyde tuck and roll.
Tuck and roll. That's
the tuck and
to cover
roll.
up how mediocre.
How
the sound
horrible it was.
Yeah.
So the sound just didn't. They didn't have a good sound system. They just had little column speakers. So it just didn't sound very good. It wasn't that they couldn't play, but it just sounded wimpy. Mm-hmm. And then they played and played and played, and nothing happened. And then finally out comes this guy, and he had on like a black leatherette costume, straight Hollywood Boulevard, with the little pointy boots, big ruffled shirt. He had his hair oiled. And it looked like Hedy Lamarr, and he was whacked. His pupils were big black pupils, and he lurched around the stage and made like these gestures, and then he began to sing the song in a feminine falsetto.
Wow. Wow.
The clock says it's time to close. And the guys
with it.
start getting mad, right? So finally he did, and I've done this when I was stoned and on shows too, and later in life on LSD. He just looked around, he said, not that one.
Yeah.
He points at Robbie Krieger, my man, play the blues. And so they started playing it's a bluesy number they have.
Backdoor Man. Or
yeah, one of those,
like
I can't remember.
Yeah.
And he's doing all the things that obnoxious drunk does at a bar, like putting his arm around and going to every, hey, this is my man, you know.
This is my man.
Right?
I love him.
But he looks great. You know, you would just want to take him home, you know, right? He looks awesome. And the guys are getting mad. You know, this is, gee, what is this guy? Is he think this is a joke or something, you know? And so it basically was a failed gig. They managed to play. It was only 30, 40 minutes. I think they played as long as to get paid.
Yeah.
And the guys were getting closer and closer to the stage, and finally they just skedaddled, you know.
Holy shit.
But I thought, well, okay, you have no more excuse now. You know, it's not, how good do I have to be? You know, that was what
setting the bar at a certain level.
Right,
I think I could hop over that thing.
Right.
These guys have a hit record? All right.
But it's funny because my dad saw the Doors in D.C. and he said, "Oh, Robbie or Ray Manzarek was great. He played organ with two hands." And I thought, that's gross. But then but he was like, and Morrison was just wasted. But I remember thinking, wow, that's cool, man.
Right. The wasted
that seems like my jazz right there. You know?
I wonder if because I'm sure when you're super fucked up, obviously your perception of what's going on is much different. So I wonder if Jim Morrison had lived and then they'd showed him. If you ever look at old performances and go, I don't really remember it being that way. It was much different in my head.
It wasn't that different. I knew I was weird. There's a really good one of me on the internet. It's performing the song Bang Bang. It's at a German television show called Bananas, and it's in the early 80s.
Bananas?
And I got there, and or Big Banana, or so I think it's Bananas, and they decided, the first line in Bang Bang is young girls know what they're after, so they found a bunch of virginal-looking young German girls, sort of like in one of those terrible films it used to make back in the day, but they were all in they were all in angelic gowns, and they arranged them from the tallest to the shortest in a choir behind me. So the shortest ones were just little girls, little 6-7-year-old girls, up to these big Brunhildes in the middle. And I sang the song, and I was pretty bad at that point. I had no front tooth. I thought that was cool.
I got news for you. It was.
Yeah, right. And this ruffled shirt, and I'm making all these jerky movements, these weird jerky dance movements. And I was trying to be I'll try to be as cool as I could be about this, you know. And I did it, and the girls they're all kind of looking at me like, you know, and they were,
yeah, we thought this was different.
This is bananas. What is this?
I was told it would be bananas.
This is not opposing the tradition of bananas.
It's not appealing.
Oh, no.
It's the kind of show.
Josh.
That was the kind of show where they have a guy with a clipboard on the stage, and when you finish the song, he points at the audience, and then that means they have to clap.
That's very German. Clap now.
Yeah, exactly. Clap now. Yes,
it's Mr. Iggy Pop.
That's right. You will clap.
But those moments actually become the coolest moments. Like you watch the Tom Snyder show, if you go back on YouTube, and your moment where you're out of your mind, and then the PIL moment where they're just talking shit to him the entire time, saying it's a fucking company and refusing to look at him and all this stuff, are the two most watched ones of the old Tom Snyder show. And it's kind of like, you're welcome, Tom, because the moments where you're willing to just do whatever.
Tom.
Yeah,
I liked Tom.
Yeah.
He was one of those tall guys who doesn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, but just keep going.
He was always bending over and he was a really nice guy. I really liked
But
him.
he has to keep going.
Yeah, but he had to act
with you. He's like,
serious,
Yeah, how do I keep going here? It's cool.
What do you think is the worst decade? Was it for
80s?
The 80s, yeah.
Oh, I suffered through the 80s. And that was in the 80s when I was performing that song on Bananas. Or I remember once the lowest point I hit in the 80s was, I think, did I not have to open for Flock of Seagulls?
Did you really?
At the Peppermint Lounge. I think so. And I was so upset. I'm opening for Flock of Seagulls. This I've got to do something about this. What will I do? How will I steal the show from Flock of Seagulls? So I called up the roadie and I said, I want you to get some 4x6s. I want you to make me a big cross. And then I'll come, I want green paint. So I painted my face green and dragged this enormous cross out onto the stage in the Peppermint Lounge. And people just scratched their heads.
I did it. I got it.
I got him, right?
I got you.
Yeah, they'll stop listening to And I Ran. This will totally fight back from the bottom and destroy the stranglehold the media has upon my potential listeners. So it was bad.
It's funny. What's interesting to hear you said is because I'd asked before, what are you rebelling against? It sounds like you're just rebelling against moments, whatever is in the moment that you kind of feel like I want to fuck with this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, those moments fade, and there's a new one coming. I think there's a sense to that where it's like, okay, that one's finished, and so this new thing is coming, and plus, banal and boring comes in waves. It's like how do you stop this next wave of total boring trash that's imminent?
Well, also, just having survived so many different forms of media consumption throughout the past 5 decades.
That's a good choice of the survived. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just because it's funny. You talk about Flock of Seagulls, and of course. Now I Ran. You might know Space Age Love Song, but it's not. But I don't. I'm sure maybe they still tour to a degree, but somehow
Guam,
yeah.
That's where you
the
go.
The snakes on the plane.
How are you? Get these motherfucking snakes off the motherfucking plane, Josh. But how do you navigate each iteration of the business and each thing that's popular with what's going on with people? Do you just not even think about any of that stuff?
No, I do. I think it's important to be aware of what other people are doing, no matter what I think of it. So I'm aware of it, and but it usually provokes a reaction.
Yeah,
with me, that's how I react to it. I'm not gonna join up. Yeah, but I'm gonna react. But in some cases. I did. My agent, lovely lady, twisted my arm and got me to do American Idol. And I didn't want to go do American Idol, but then I thought about it, and she said, "Iggy, this is big. It'd be good. It would be good for you, really." And I'm thinking it's not going to be good for me. They're going to hate me, But finally I said, okay, I'm going to go do American Idol, be the guest guy, right?
Yeah.
And they gave me a nice young band from L.A., backed me up, let me choose the song. And I was all revved up to go, So I got out there, and stage manager pointed, and I started the song, and we broke into it. And then they cut it because sometimes Ryan Seacrest hadn't done his hair or something, and then he introduced me by saying, "I don't know if I'm ready for this, but here's," because he'd seen a little bit. So I was like a fish out of water there, that's for sure. But on the other hand,
as someone that loves infiltration, is one of my favorite corruptive hobbies.
I infiltrated American Idol.
I like to infiltrate and eat from the good cancer from the inside out, because It's like, I destroy you. You're nothing but facade now. It's just it crumbles. I don't mind shit like that because
I was the subject of a CBS poll the next day of the American people. Do you think Iggy Pop was cool, or did he make a fool of himself? 75% fool.
Did that make you happy?
Fool, 75%.
Too cool for fool.
Yeah, I liked that.
Cooler
But 25%, that's a lot of people. Yeah, right? That's a lot of people, right?
But I think you also have to think about the quality of the people voting in a poll.
Well, no,
like
I know that.
Yeah.
I'm aware of this, but you want those low-quality people.
Yeah.
You want those looky-loos. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you want them. You also want those. You also want the bad people. The people come for the wrong.
You sound like the Trump campaign.
They have to pay. Just pay the goddamn money. Shut the fuck up. You can be bad. You can be dumb. You can be ugly. I don't care. You're just as good as a cool person, and I will treat you the same.
Yeah.
Because that's the job. Yeah. It's a burger.
Yeah.
Right?
Sound burger.
You have to give everybody the same burger.
Is there a distinction between you and the guy on stage, or do you see Iggy Pop as this separate entity, or are you him?
I think we cohabit the same body.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not sure how that,
I mean, when you're kind of walking around home, like, what are you thinking about?
Oh, often Iggy Pop things, and then what happens when I'm doing that is like, what am I doing? Where's my glasses?
Yeah.
Where's my phone? Or my wife will say, I'll ask her a question and say, I just told you that 5 minutes ago. I'll say, but I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about Iggy Pop things.
Oh, him again.
Hand on the same switch.
Yeah, right,
one wants to throw it on, the other one wants to turn it off.
Did you ever think at some point, like, I want to try to be I want to embody a different type of guy. I want to embody a different character. I want to do a different kind of thing. Or did you all just see it as pieces of?
Well, I think I do other things, and mostly it's interesting. There's something about the Iggy Pop thing that is so robust that it causes others to ignore the other things I do. They just say, "Oh, we won't pay too much attention to that." Okay, he sang a nice ballad in French. He sang a Sinatra song. Oh, we won't. Let's get back to this Iggy Pop thing.
Right.
Here's some glass. Cut yourself.
Yeah.
Take your shirt off.
Yeah.
So
do you mind balladeering with this glass on your chest?
Yeah. I don't really make up plans or anything, but I'm just really interested in if I was quick and funny, I'd try what you do. I'd try a podcast, and I also like.
I think you got to do that anyway.
Yeah, right. I'm not any good at basketball, so that's out. I'm a spaz and I'm short. So that's no good. Right there.
You recognized your strengths.
Yeah, right. A short spaz. Yeah. What could a short spaz do?
Could paint himself green and drag across on stage.
I made an album in '98 called Avenue B, and it was much different than the sound that people associated with me. And the marvelous and erudite, witty reviewer for Rolling Stone started out by saying, "Okay, look, I get it. This guy is tired of being a spaz." And he was, but this doesn't make it. We give it 2 stars, 2 stars.
Sounds like the script of Revenge of the Nerds. He's tired of being spaz.
Yeah, he's tired of being a spaz.
But that's what's so interesting is it's. I feel like there's this double standard, this weird expectation. It's like, as an artist, if you're going to keep putting stuff out, people expect you to push an envelope. They expect you to try different things, but then
not that way, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Not that
no,
way.
the other way that I don't know, but just not that way. Like, how do you? I guess you really don't have any other guide than just whatever you fucking feel like doing.
Well, it's got to be a little like I wanted to sing some Sinatra songs, and I could just picture it. I said to myself, am I going to get support from the industry or the public in America? Oh, Iggy Pop is going to do the American Songbook. No, So I snuck off to France, and I just did a little record. I got it funded and released through a fashion website, a guy who wanted to get involved in music, and half of it's French ballads sung in French, and half of it is old Sinatra bel canto. And I threw Michelle by the Beatles in there because it's French and English, right? I wanted to meld. I saw a connection between the two feelings. And it's a nice little record. And it's not like I'm not Caruso. I'm not even Rod Stewart, but it's a nice little record. I learned to sing better by doing that record, and it helped me go in the direction that we got to for this record. But the thing I really liked about it was, after it had been out a few years, I did a rock show there, hard-hitting balls-out show, and a guy came backstage. He owns a string of wine shops, upscale wine shops, and he said, Iggy Pop, I order your album Après 25 at a time, and I put it on the counter next to the wine, and it always sells out. And then I order 25 more. And that was a great feeling for me.
Nice.
Yeah, be with the wine and the cheese and, and the parlez-vous.
Did you ever think you would see that day?
Well, I was no. But that's a very nice thing. And you're talking to people, not enough people speak French. They're getting worried about becoming overcome. So it's nice for them if somebody will sing some of their songs in French and give them a chance to say, your French is terrible, which they will.
But what I love about the French is they mandatorily inject art into their lives and their culture.
Yes.
It's
a part of everything.
And it must be this way, whether you like it or not. There's this allotment of like, you must be cultured and you must receive this culture or else, and the world gets better when you do that, when you have this emphasis on art, no matter what medium it is. There's this great emphasis there, and that I would be into if we took a cue from here and instead of cutting art out of, we'll get rid of that. We don't need that. Yeah, that doesn't. Sure, that building looks cool, but whatever. Let's just So I like the emphasis there that they have.
What are you when you think about everything so far? What are you the most proud of? Is there anything that you're kind of is like
whatever we did together?
I mean, as a kid,
post-pop depression,
as post-pop depression,
and produced by Josh Homme.
That's right.
With D14 and Van Elders.
Next
available March 18th. Loma Vista Records, baby, baby, baby.
I mean, I remember being high on acid and surfing down a blowjob fountain, but this record with Josh Homme has to be.
Clearly that trumps that big time.
I used to go swimming. That big fountain at the corner where Wilshire and Santa Monica?
Yeah.
The blowjob.
I used to go. Oh, is that the blowjob?
No, I'm just kidding.
But when I was very poor here and I didn't have a pool or access to the beach, I would. I'd go over to that neighborhood when nobody's looking in the fountain, and I would swim around a circle, restroom.
Honey, I just saw the funniest thing. I think I saw Iggy Pop swimming in the fountain.
And I'm very proud. I did that really cool on the QT. Nobody ever caught me or anything. It's only about 14 inches deep.
You're probably never going to die.
Yeah.
There's some shit in
I think if anything that you've proven, the one thing that you've proven is that you cannot be killed.
Is what you've been inoculated.
That's why I'm here to learn. I'm just here to learn.
That fountain was a step up for me. It was Beverly Hills.
He's going to take his thumbnail and slice and just pour the blood into your mouth.
Fountain of
Josh, now you will be born to darkness, as I call it.
Let's do this. I'd sort of be like, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, sure.
I've done everything else. Let's try this. Why couldn't this work?
We might as well. Do your friends call you Iggy? Like, are you Iggy in your life?
Yeah, more and more. It used to be Jim, and then it got to there was a tipping point when all of a sudden I'd been Iggy longer than I'd been Jim. and then it all tipped, and then everybody just called me Iggy.
And that's it. And you're fine with that.
Yeah.
Just before we're wrapping this up, there are two people in here who are hardcore music experts, my friend April and my friend Kyle.
Oh,
do
shit,
either of you have a question that you want to ask since we're all... Yeah, if you
I
can...
love your shirt, by the way.
Thank you
So much.
I actually am curious because I'm a big New Order fan. How that collaboration came about? You being on their latest album.
You're a big what fan?
New Order.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Shit.
I didn't mean to stump you.
Yeah, it was pretty much by email.
Oh, okay.
And he just sent me a... You mean the last one? The one... the
most recent one.
Oh, this one. Well, I knew them. Okay, I met them doing the Tibet House benefit at Carnegie Hall. Philip Glass called me and said, well, I've got these, there's a British band, New Order, and they'd really like to do some songs with you. So, and then me and Bernard corresponded, and then we had a call, and I ended up singing some songs with them, and we got to know each other a little bit. And so then he just sent me a thing. I wrote a poem. Will you say my poem? And I said, yeah, I'll say your poem.
Well, that also answered. I was wondering if you wrote it or he wrote it.
And they just sent sent me the track, and they sent me the poem, and I spent about. It was a cheap job, so I only spent about. I spent about 4 hours internalizing his lines a little bit, and he did a demo so to get his rhythm, and then I just went in and cut it about 6 times maybe and sent it to him like that.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you guys weren't even in the same room?
No.
Oh, okay.
But we have been in the same room.
Right.
Before.
Have you really met him? Come on.
And when I did a lecture for the BBC, and Bernard came in England during the gestation of our relationship, and he asked a question about, don't we really need to stop these people who are stealing our music with these computerized devices and they have no soul and blah, 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 and we need to do so. And I said, well, I advised him maybe he could get a job like hosting a TV show.
It's really easy.
And everybody, Ed just was perfectly sensible to me. I would love to have a job hosting a TV show. And I was hoping, there's a show about wildlife in England. I was hoping that Bernard and I could co-host someday. Like, my idea would be that Bernard could take me to quaint little English places. What's a country file? It's called Country File. And I could be like the American going, wow.
Oh, my God.
Right?
What? I would watch that in a second. Do that. You guys should also make like a buddy cop movie or something for me to watch.
He has an even personality, a nice vocal delivery. So I thought he could. Well, see, this church, which has been here since the 13th century, is inhabited by bats, and I could go, wow, and be that guy.
I greenlight that TV show.
But he didn't pick up on that. I just got the poetry.
Come on, Bernard, get fucking on it.
One step at a time.
The world needs this show to happen. How do you get to because of your energy on stage? Like when you're not feeling it or you feel like you're up against the wall, how do you force yourself into that place, or do you not try?
It's terror.
The fire.
There's a lot of people in the room.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people there. Hey, what the fuck? There are people there.
So you do. It is.
I prepare for a long time on a show day. It takes me quite a while to get it up, As I get older, it takes longer and longer. It's more and more work to get it up. That's the way it is, I try to do my best, and I've modified, There are less stage dive moments. There's more even delivery, just different things. Less screeching.
Well, you can throw Josh off the stage. He's rugged. He can handle it.
Lawsuit.
Kyle, do you have a question you want?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Giant Man crushes 20 members.
Yeah. First of all, Funhouse is my favorite album of all time, so thank you.
Thanks very much.
I just want to know if you could touch on, because I've heard a little bit of it, how Watt ended up playing with the Stooges.
Yeah. Watt was one of a group of people, included Thurston Moore and singer of Mudhoney, Mark Arm, and the guitarist, dentist's son from Northampton, Dinosaur Jr., Jay. These people were real interested in Ron at a certain time, and in Scott, and they started doing differently configured gigs where Watt and Scott and Ron and someone else would go out as a band and play festivals, or Ron would tour with Jay Massis and do the encore doing Stooges songs, this sort of thing. So that went on for a couple of years, and that put me in a place where I could try to resurrect the group because they were out there too. So there was less differential between the flow of what we were doing. And then when it came time to figure out who's going to play bass when we actually go out and do gigs, we got offered a big gig at Coachella. Watt he'd earned his place because he was the guy who went out there and slogged.
Yeah, he's a good guy too.
Yeah, so that's how, you know.
Besides playing speed mariachi under the band name Cotterpins, what?
Cotterpins.
The Cotterpins.
I don't know where that, but it's just one of those things always made an impression. And I hate it. You know, I don't want to spend my life dealing with a fucking cotterpin. Right? I want to do something else. You know,
I like Mr. Cotterpins.
Mr. Cotterpins. Hey, Mr. Cotterpins. So what else? Do you have a slew of things that you still haven't done yet that you want to do, or do you take it moment to moment? What do you want to?
The things I want to do, I'm probably never going to get to do. You know, like I would like to run away to Paraguay and create a kind of a small cult or something.
It's not too late.
Yeah, I think I can still, you know.
Yes, sir.
A small cult.
Yeah, things like that, you know, or maybe like just live out my days in a little apartment near the Vatican, sipping coffee and visiting the Sistine Chapel.
Go use that one ATM that's in Latin.
And graffitiing Bernini's. You know, Bernini has all these big columns there in Bernini's piazza in front of the Vatican, and there's really scribbled graffiti all over them. I'd like to graffiti on those and just be like that, you know. But I don't think I'm going to do that either. There are things. I'm not sure what. I have no. I don't have any plans really.
What do you think is the best thing a person, as we're kind of winding this down, what do you think is the best thing a person can do, an artist, a performer, to try to discover who they are, like to bring out who they are, figure out what their voice is, their point of view?
You think you have to recognize the big three, which is yourself, the people you want to connect to, and then the society that is surrounds you both. Mm-hmm. You have to recognize and balance you have to communicate with those three. You have to, and also to deal with those three.
Do you
try to balance it?
It's respecting the society or trying to shake the society?
No, just be aware of it and decide. Okay, I think today I could get away with a little disrespect, you know, but
gauging,
not at dinner. Be nice, you know. Is the state I'm in now a little bit, you know. So be aware of it and then work out your strategies. Mm-hmm. But I think you have to be aware. You know, it's not like, we could just live. There shouldn't be any money. So I'll find a way to just live completely without. No.
Right.
There's this stuff. There are these ways that things go, and there are things that people are going to say about you and all that. But that shouldn't be the whole game either. Mm-hmm. Or you end up as one of these suicidal billionaires.
Right.
Actually, you don't hear about suicidal billionaires. It's
There's
the
only like 4
millionaires.
of
You know, people, but a lot of people make a lot of money and then they blow it, you know, because they don't listen to themselves anymore. And then also you've got to get something from the people you actually want to connect with.
Yeah.
And that, if depending on what sort of person you are, now if you're that mean guy who charges $750 now for that
Martin Shkreli.
Yeah, if you're him, you want to connect with some suckers, right? You know, but if you're somebody else, you just want somebody to give you a hug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Just
I think
depends.
it's also the idea of I think seeking too many external things to fix you. I think that's where people are like, oh, I made $1 million. Now what? You know, oh wow!
Why didn't that work?
Why I thought this was supposed to make me. Now I feel worse.
Yeah, why are we?
That didn't work.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Was there one moment on stage where you said, "Aha, this is Iggy," or was it a slow transition? Did you discover it over time, or did something click at one point?
The second gig I ever did, being as a it was the first time I did lead vocals. I thought, yeah. Yeah, okay. You know, I thought I had something going on. You know, the first gig I was trying to be an instrumentalist still, so I was strapped into. I had a guitar, slide guitar, and I had a pair of golf shoes hooked up to a piece of galvanized steel I was standing on with contact mics so that I could scat dance and play at the same time.
God, that's amazing.
And I was also singing.
Me and my golf shoes.
And I thought, well, what could I do to look interesting? So I made a afro wig out of a shower cap and heavy-duty aluminum foil. I made it myself and curled it, and I was in whiteface. And I wore a maternity dress. So that was an interesting performance. But then by the next one, that was just too much to deal with. So the second time, I just went out barefoot, pair of jeans, no shirt, white face. Mm-hmm. And that was the look. And then the approach was to dance and scream and scuffle while the guys in the group playing the instruments played these kind of droning riffs.
Yeah.
And then the third gig, I ditched I didn't realize that I shaved off my eyebrows for the white face. You need eyebrows.
There's a reason we have.
You know.
Otherwise, you just look too surprised about everything.
I have these horrible styes in my eye because the sweat, you know. It just went right down, you know.
It's a thing you learn.
Yes, right.
One learns when one shaves a brow.
Yeah, exactly. Outside of Josh Homme, who's your second favorite collaboration?
Josh Homme.
You can't be 1 and 2.
I'm 1, 2, and 7, and that's the way I am everywhere I go.
I'll allow it.
I can't rate them. There's a lot of good people.
Yeah.
You know, David Bowie, Steve Jones.
Jonesy.
Is a gas.
His Instagram is amazing, by the way.
It's Ron Ashton. You know, so.
That's great.
A lot of people.
Well, it's been really great to have you here, and I really appreciate you coming in and fucking around. And Josh Homme, one of these days I'm going to convince you to come on at midnight, and you're going to bring fucking Dave Grohl on, and you guys are going to be funny.
Head to head. Yeah.
You're going to take him down.
Of course I will.
Oh, the challenge has been laid, Grohl. The challenge has been laid. Step it up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
All right. Well, it's good to see you. Post-pop depression, March 18th? Was that the date?
Yeah.
March 18th, post-pop depression.
Thanks a lot,
it's good to see you.
All right,
really,
Chris.
Thanks, man.
And
Come back anytime.
I hope the bleeding stops for you.
Thanks.
Ciao,
Josh, you left the sample right on his chest.
Yeah, there you go. Signed and delivered.
Fantastic. Keep that in there.
Never washed that.
Enjoy your burrito, everyone. All right.
Now leaving Nerdist.com. Enjoy your burrito.